Hi everyone, welcome to the Close Reader. Today we're trying something new. I am coming to you from outside, but we'll do the same thing. I have my trusted iPad over here, and I'm gonna sync up the videos later. And we're gonna do a close reading of Thomas Carlyle's Past and Present, Book 2, The Ancient Monk, Chapter 8, The Election. This is the election of Abbot Sampson that we've been building up for. And just as a setting I'm really got myself in the mood. I'm in this fantastic bookstore called Penguin, like penguin. Look at this. This is one of the things that I love about Turkey, that a bookstore, like that majority sells books, has a cafe and is open until 11 p.m. It's fantastic. I love it. All right, so we're gonna get into it. Um, Sweet. I'm also recording my iPad. Here we go. All right. Chapter 8, The Election. Accordingly, our prior assembled us in chapter, and we, adjuring him before God to do justly, nominate, not by our selection, yet with our assent, 12 monks, moderately satisfactory, of whom are Hugo, third prior, Brother Dennis, a venerable man, Walter the medicus, Samson Subsacrista, and other esteemed characters, though Wilhelmus Sacrista of the Red Nose too is one. So the king has asked them to come basically to do the selection of the next abbot. And Jocelyn is saying, not through our selection yet with our assent. So through some way that's not super elaborated on. They pick 12 monks, 12 of their best, obviously among whom is going to be the next abbot. But they're sort of both the selection committee, and they're also members of like potential candidates inside that, among those 12 as well. So there are a number of people that are obviously up for the job, like the third prior, Brother Dennis, a venerable man, but also the Wilhelmus Sacrista, the drunkard, the guy who's always drinking or doing worse, as Jocelyn said before. That guy is also part of this 12. So we'll see where how things progress from here. These shall proceed straightway to Waltham. Waltham is where King Henry II has taken up residence. I don't know if it's like always, if his residence is always there, but at least for the moment it's there. And there elect the abbot as they may and can. Monks are sworn to obedience, must not speak too loud under penalty of foot gyves. So the ankle shackles, under penalty of the ankle shackles, they're not actually allowed to gossip, but they do be gossiping. So we're going to see that. Under penalty of foot gyves, limbo, and bread and water. So bread and water is the restricted diet they go on when they're in prison. Yet monks too would know what it is they are obeying. So monks also want to know like whom they want to obey. That's like a big topic for them. So they can't help themselves but speak. The St. Edmundsbury community has no hustings. So hustings, we had seen the definition in the previous chapter, no like public forum for electioneering. So St. Edmundsbury does not have that. Ballot box, indeed no open voting, yet by various vague manipulations, pulse feelings, we struggle to ascertain what its virtual aim is, and succeed better or worse. This question, however, so it's saying like we're trying to, I think Carlyle is inserting himself a little bit there. So he's saying there are no open ballots, but there's like a more vague process. We struggle to ascertain it. This question, however, arises, alas, a quiet preliminary question. Will the Dominus Rex allow us to choose freely? It is to be hoped. So will the king allow us for us to do picking at all? That's like another question on their minds, let alone whom to pick. Is the king even going to let us pick? It is to be hoped. Well, if so, we agree to choose one of our own convents. So the monks agree, the 12 monks, that if the king lets them, they will pick one of their own. If so, we agree to choose one of our own convent. If not, if the Dominus Rex will force a stranger on us, we decide on demurring. Demurring means raise objections or show reluctance. I just kind of love that Jocelyn's saying is not saying like we're gonna revolt or I don't know what other possible revolution monks could do, but like they'll just be kind of sad and they'll be collectively sad and they will collectively humbly voice their objections to the king. Like that's the most they can do. Um, sorry, yeah. If not, if the Dominus Rex will force a stranger on us, we decide on demurring. The prior and his 12 shall demur. We can appeal, plead, remonstrate, appeal even to the Pope, but trust it will not be necessary. So they're hoping that it won't come to that. Then there's this other question. What is this other question? Raised by Brother Samson. What if the 13 should not themselves be able to agree? Good question, Brother Samson. Brother Samson, sub-sacrista, one remarks, is ready oftenest with some question, some suggestion that has wisdom in it. So Justin's commenting like, Brother Samson raises good questions. Though a servant of servants and saying little, his words all tell, having sense in them, it seems, by his lights mainly that having sense in them. It seems by his light mainly, so this is his opinion mainly, that we steer ourselves in this great dimness. So in these uncertain times, Brother Samson is one of those lights that is guiding us. What if the 13 should not themselves be able to agree? Speak, Samson, and advise. So they're asking his opinion. Okay, what if? Could not, hints Samson, 6 of our venerablest elders be chosen by us, a kind of electoral committee here and now, with their hand on the Gospels, with their eye on the Sacrosancta, so with their hand on the Gospels and eye on the Bible, we take oath. So Samson's saying, let's pick 6 of us, so we're 13 now. 12 monks along with Samson who's helping all of them. That's 13 people going to the king. Samson is saying we could pick 6 of us and of our elders. They could put their hands on the Bible. And let's see what Samson continues. Of these, with their hand on the Gospels, with their eye on the Sacrosancta, we take oath that they will do faithfully. Let these 6 in secret, as before God, agree on 3. So Samson's saying, let these 6 elders narrow the pool down to 3, whom they reckon fittest, write their names in a paper, and deliver the same, sealed forthwith to the 13. One of those 3, the 13 shall fix on if permitted. So if the king allows us to pick one of our convent, Samson suggests one of those, we can now unseal the paper, and we can discuss to pick one of those 3. If not permitted, so if the king does not let us pick one of our own, that is to say, if the Dominus Rex forces to demur, the paper shall be brought back unopened and publicly burned, that no man's secret bring him into trouble. Because it's like interesting. Like one of the fascinating things, and by the way, I read this chapter yesterday, and it's been like reverberating around in my brain because it's a fascinating thing actually to witness. When you realize these people, first of all, it's a momentous decision. It is a hugely momentous decision. The last abbot, he reigned for, if memory, I'm recalling this from memory, but about 24 years. Abbot Hugo, the horrible abbot, who in the last 14 years of them put the monastery at financial risk enormously through taking out continuous usurious loans. So like this is a huge decision. One bad abbot and you're stuck with him for life. Abbot Hugo, despite being a terrible leader, was not nobody was able to get rid of him, and people schemed, etc., under him to kind of try to get their way. But ultimately, a bad leader cannot be deposed. So this monastery is taking up a huge decision. Sorry, I'm like lots of people around, and I'm a little self-conscious of speaking, but we'll continue. what else was I going to say? Oh, I love also. So the other thing is that this is a monastery. People, it's a one-way ticket. People don't leave the monastery. So whoever is elected, and if it comes out that you voted for someone or didn't vote for someone, any good things or bad things you say about them, especially the bad things, you're going to live with those people forever. And if you can imagine, like, if you don't are not on team of the next abbot, then if the next abbot is a vindictive person, they can take it out on you. So this is like quite uncomfortable. Like, they want to make their own decisions, but at the same time, like, standing behind your own word means making a choice, and that means that you're going to break some feelings, you're going to hurt some feelings. That's a difficult place to be in. One really has to appreciate. And we really have nothing quite like this, like something like a monastery where you have to live and do like morning and evening and afternoon prayers, like constantly have daily contact with people who know exactly what you think of them. Like, push comes to shove, they know exactly what you think of them. That's that's an interesting dynamic. I'm not sure we really have. I'm not sure it's easy for us to empathize. So Samson advises, so we act. So Samson's very judicious. Like, he's both narrowing down the pool to 3, which is going to help at least focus the discussion a little bit. And it's also, he's suggesting that the paper is burned if they can't pick their own from the king, which means that Samson is trying to preserve the good nature between the monks as much as possible. So Samson advises, so we act wisely in this and in other crises of the business. So Samson is a good, raises good questions and makes good suggestions. Our electoral committee, its eye on the Sacrosancta, is soon named, soon sworn, and we, striking up the 5th Psalm, Verbo Mea. Sorry, did I? Yeah. Give ear unto my words, O Lord, my meditation weigh. So, of course, they pray before they send off the 6 elders. March out chanting, leave the 6. So their other 7 leave, and the 6, they leave the 6 to their work in the chapter here. Their work, before long, they announce as finished. They, with their eye on the Sacrosancta, imprecating the Lord to weigh and witness their meditation. Imprecating means utter, invoke. So they're trying to invoke the presence of the Lord as they do their meditation. Weigh and witness their meditation, have fixed on 3 names, they've decided on 3 names, written them in this sealed paper. Let Samson subsacrista, general servant of the party, take charge of it. So this is an extremely sensitive decision. And Samson, who's doing like sort of the general administrative helps with these with this party of 12, they entrust him with it. Like, his integrity is clearly, obviously unimpeachable. The elders don't keep it. The elders are the only ones who know, but they know that Samson's going to keep it and not look at the paper. Amazing. Let Samson, yeah. On the morrow morning, so next morning, our prior and his 12 will be ready to get on their way. So they will start the journey from St. Edmundsbury to Waltham. This then is the ballot box and electoral winnowing machine they have at St. Edmundsbury. A mind fixed on the thrice holy. So 3 times they fix it on the holy. They do the Psalms, they put their hand on the Bible, and they put their eyes on the Bible as well. A mind fixed on the thrice holy, appeal to God, or maybe thrice holy means Trinity in this case. Well, either way, they do. There's a lot of focusing on the Bible going on. A mind fixed on the thrice holy, an appeal to God on high to witness their meditation, by far the best and indeed the only good electoral winnowing machine. By far the best and indeed only good electoral winnowing machine if men have souls in them. This is Carlyle's comment. Like, if men have souls, honestly, the best you're gonna do in winnowing down potential candidates is that men, the elders of the community, put their hearts on the Bible and select a couple. Totally worthless it is. Totally worthless, it is true. Even hideous and poisonous if men have no souls. That's only if you are impacted by the pages that you put your hand on, right? If the Gospels have no meaning to you, if you have no soul, then this process is as good as any, and can even be poisonous because it won't be effective. But without soul, alas, what winnowing machine in human elections can be of avail? Yeah, without soul, there's nothing. We cannot get along without soul. We stick fast. The mournfulest spectacle and salt itself will not save us. So Carlyle is saying, ambulance. I'm not sure if the mic is picking this up, but we'll see. Um, but without soul, we do have some souls, and that's why Carlyle is having the faintest of the hope, I think. On the morrow morning, accordingly, are 13 set forth, or rather prior and 11, for Samson, as general servants of the party, has to linger settling many things. So actually, it's not 12 monks and Samson going off, but only the 12 monks going off, because Samson is staying behind to settle some stuff, so he has to catch up a little bit later. At length, he too gets upon the road. So Samson also finally gets on the road later after the others. And carrying the sealed paper in a leather pouch hung around his neck, and frocum bajulans in ulnis. Thanks to thee, Bazi Jocelyn, his frock. I, now I realize why this made me laugh. You'll see. So Jocelyn's comment, obviously, like we're reading all of this because Jocelyn's writing it down, right? So Jocelyn is observing Samson like stay late to take care of things and then finally get on the road. And now Jocelyn in his like notes has said his frock skirts looped over his elbow, showing substantial sternworks, tramped stoutly along. What a strange comment. He's saying that he's lifted the brother Samson gets on the road by lifting his skirt around his elbow, and I suppose like the guy didn't skip leg day or something, so because he has substantial sternwork, so a substantial back or substantial um, uh, uh, calves or something. Yeah, the guy on top of everything that we know about brother Samson, we know now that he's also a muscular or kind of strongly built person. Away across the heath, not yet of Newmarket and horse jockeying, across our Fleam Dyke and Devil's Dyke, no longer useful as Mercian East Anglian boundary or bulwark, continually towards Waltham, and the Bishop of Winchester's house there. So the king is staying at the Bishop of Winchester's house, for his majesty is in that. Brother Samson, as purse bearer, has the reckoning always. When there is one to pay, delays are numerous, progress none of the swiftest. So this is a party that is making progress to Waltham rather slowly. Carlyle describes a couple of the places on their route there, and I'll have some maps so we can look at them, because that's like part of the pleasure of reading Carlyle is going down each of his rabbit holes. But the last sentence means, so whenever there is something to pay, obviously like these people are staying at our equivalent of hotels or inns or something, and it's a large party, so they're probably eating, drinking, etc. So there's a lot of bills to settle along the way, and it's always Samson that does the settling of these bills. So Samson is like an all-purpose, one-man CEO of the whole mission. Despite the fact that there's a prior there are all these other monks there, he seems to be the one who's most in charge. So let's see on some of these other references that Carlyle has made. Okay, so away across the heath, not yet of Newmarket and horse jockeying. This place still exists today. It's called Newmarket Heath, I believe, and it's famous for having. This is like obviously a very recent image, and it's famous for having large tracks where horses race or horse races is done. So it's interesting that this was. Like Newmarket of horse jockeying was something established in Carlyle's time, and 150 years later, almost 200 years later, it's still the same. It still has that function. I mean, this is like the ever permanence of England, just incredible. let's see what else. Fleemdike and Devil's Dyke. So Devil's Dyke and Fleemdike are these Saxon defense barriers. So these are old compared to even Jocelyn's time, because Jocelyn's writing in the year 1180. So at his time, there are these like boundary kind of protection structures from the times when the Mercians and the East Anglias, or the Kingdom of Mercia and the East Anglia, used to fight, and so they erected those barriers. So interesting. They and I'm sure you can, like, I don't know this for sure. I didn't look it up, but I'm sure you can see relics of that in modern day England as well. Because in England, nothing dies, nothing vanishes, nothing is evaporated. It's just that the land of the land of permanence. Yeah. Okay. But in the solitude of the convent, destiny thus big in her birth time, what gossiping, what babbling, what dreaming of dreams. So Jocelyn now writing back in the convent, what's happening back in the convent, it's like bubbling over. Now that the most senior, most well-respected monks are all gone to the king, there's nothing to limit the whole gossiping and babbling and dreaming going on. The secret of the three our electoral elders alone know. So only the six know of the three. Some abbot we shall have to govern us, but which abbot? Oh, which? One monk discerns in a vision of the night watches that we shall get an abbot of our own body, without needing to demur. So that's one of the dreams they get, one of these monks. Unclear whether that monk is part of the party of the 12, but I don't think so. It seems to be like it seems to be monks in the convent dreaming stuff. One monk discerns in a vision of the night watches that we shall get an abbot of our own body without needing to demur. A prophet appeared to him, clad in all white, and said, "Ye shall have one of yours, and he will rage among you. Woo, he will rage among you like a wolf. Saviet et lupus. Verily, then which of ours?" So, I mean, talk about a prophetic dream. Which of ours? How many monks are there that could rage among the other monks like a wolf? This is a prophetic dream, seriously. Another monk now dreams. He has seen clearly which a certain figure taller by the head and shoulders than the other two, dressed in alb and pallium, and with the attitude of one about to fight. So tall figure, taller than the rest, dressed in we're gonna see alb and pallium. Alb is this white clothing that the monks wear. Pallium is this thing around the neck of the. Is this Pope John the Second? So, I'm not sure. He's, I think, the Polish Pope, and people love him. But anyway, so the thing he's wearing around his neck, that's called the pallium. So sorry. I'm really not used to like talking for so long. So this YouTube channel is a bit of a challenge, but I'm really hoping to get better. I'm even considering potentially taking what do they call these lessons? It's not quite singing lessons, but like the things that make your voice grow stronger. I want to kind of look into that. But anyway, so another monk has seen another dream where the monk that was selected was taller than the others. He was dressed in his official garb, um, and with an attitude of one about to fight. So kind of echoing the wolf thing. It's amazing how these dreams are converging. Which tall figure a wise editor would rather not name at this stage of the business? So Jocelyn is hesitating to write down who this like tall figure monk could be. Enough that the vision is true. Enough that the vision is true, that St. Edmund's himself, pale and awful, seemed to rise from his shrine with naked feet and say audibly, "He shall wail my feet." So being, I think this is not referring to another dream, but if the next abbot comes from the monastery itself, it's like Saint Edmund himself saying, "One of mine is gonna wail my feet." Amazing. Which part of the vision also proves true? Such guessing, visioning, dim perscuration of the moment of the momentous future. The very clothmakers, old women, all townsfolk speak of it. And more than once it is reported in St. Edmundsbury, this one is elected, and then this one, and that other. Who knows? So there's like, it's not only rumors about the future going on, but fake news, false news is coming as well. Like such and such person was elected, the other one was elected. None of them are true, but that's that's the spirit of the times at the moment, and everything, everybody's in on this speculation. Cloth makers, women, townsfolk, like this is truly like if you imagine, like I said, the abbots that once elected, they never go, can't get rid of them no matter how bad their leadership, and you're going to be living under this abbot for a generation. For 24 years was the last abbot, and as we know in hindsight, Samson is going to rule for 31 years. This is a generation of people, hundreds of people hangs by this decision. It's truly incredible. Perscuration means a thorough examination, careful investigation. Um, so this is when dim perscuration. So the examination is not very thorough. Obviously, from the convent, you don't get up-to-date news, but that's what's happening in the convent. But now, sure enough, at Waltham, on the second Sunday of Quadragesima, which means medieval Latin word for Lent. So, second Sunday of Lent, they arrive at Waltham, which dry as dust declares to mean the 22nd day of February, year 1182. I love how like Carlyle always does a little bit of a dig, but I mean, come on, like certain things are dry as dust, I get it, but like having a bare minimum of a timeline, that's not so visible, or that's not that open to ridicule in my opinion. Um, but yeah, still, he's saying dry as dust declares this to be the 22nd of February, year 1182. 13 St. Edmundsbury monks are at last seen processioning. I don't know why that was so difficult for me. Last seen processioning towards the Winchester Manor House, and in some high presence chamber and hall of state get access to Henry II in all his glory. What a hall! Not imaginary in the least, but entirely real and indisputable, though so extremely dim to us being now Carlyle, sunk in the deep distances of the night. The Winchester Manor House has fled bodily. I love this phrasing by Carlyle. So clearly, we've gotten into this one exception in England where there's something that used to exist that no longer exists, and no trace of it exists, and that is the Winchester Manor House. So the literal place, the manor where this meeting between the monks and King Henry II was held. We That building doesn't exist anymore. Shocker. So I love how Carlyle says fled bodily, almost implying that like the soul of the place can still exist after even you raise the place itself to the ground. Interesting to think about. The Winchester Manor House has fled bodily, like a dream of the old knight. Not dry as dust himself can show a wreck of it. There's not even records of where precisely it was, it seems. Interesting. House and people, royal and episcopal, lords and warlets, where are they? Why, there, I say, 7 centuries off. Sunk so far in the night that they are there they are, sunk so far in the night, there they are. Peep through the blankets of the old night, and thou wilt see. So, if you look in this blanket, it's interesting, like time being analogized to a night and a heavy blanket, but blanket also implies you can like lift the blanket, you can discover things about it, you can see what's underneath the blanket. Um, so one thing is, I was wondering what these people, royal episcopal lords and warlets. So, episcopal relates to bishops. So, it's like the king and his bishops, and warlets means a low ranking servant or menial attendant. So, King Henry II and his whole retinue are there in a grand hall to await the arrival of the monks. King Henry himself is visible there, a vivid, noble looking man with grizzled beard in glittering, uncertain costume, with earls around him. I'm not exactly sure what glittering, uncertain costume means, but that's the phrase. With earls around him, and bishops and dignitaries and the like. Oops, sorry. Um, by the way, let me just quickly check. We are almost halfway through. We might need to make this a two-part recording. I'm keeping an eye on the time as well, and this place closes at 11. Okay. By the way, this is like surprisingly a little bit easier for me in terms of speaking than inside the house. Interesting. All right. So we're at the king with his retinue, bishops, dignitaries, and the like. The hall is large and has, for one thing, an altar near it, chapel and altar adjoining it. But what gilt seats, carved tables, carpeting of rush cloth, what arras hangings and figure of logs. Alas, it has human life in it, um, and is not the grand miracle in what hangings or costumes soever. Is not that the grand miracle in what hangings or costume soever? So um, I'm not quite sure if Carlyle is saying that we're not getting a thorough description of the decor from Jocelyn. It sounds like when Carlyle says, what gilt seats, carved tables, like what sorts of, like we know the place, but we don't know precisely what it looks like. It seems like that question is never really answered. So Jocelyn doesn't talk about the the kind of eye-catching interior decor. But then again, Carlyle says, the most important thing is that it has human life in it. So that's really the grand miracle. It doesn't matter what, hangs on the walls and stuff. I wanted to make a reference to two things. So rush cloth is a floor covering made from woven marsh rushes, a medieval version of mat or carpeting. And then arras hangings are rich tapestries named after Arras, France, to cover and decorate walls. Now, are you ready to see some beautiful arras hangings? Apparently, these are famous. Like, I found some pictures on Wikipedia that were these medieval tapestries that were gifted to Polish kings and queens, I suppose. Look at this. This is a tapestry. This sort of a thing would hang in the walls, on the walls. So rich. And very symbolic too. By the way, did you catch the part where the king's like next to the reception office, let's say, of the king, there's a little chapel and an altar. So they literally brought the prayer rooms into this temporary office for the king. This is another one of the tapestries. I like this one more. This one seems more symbolic and stuff, but this one, like the beauty of the natural landscape with the leaves. I mean, this must be non-trivial to weave. Lots of color, lots of detail. But yeah, that's what is something like this might be hanging in King Henry II's temporary office space. The Dominus Rex benignantly, that means benignly and kindly, benignantly receiving our 13 with their obeisance. Obeisance means deferential respect, graciously declaring that he will strive to act for God's honor and the Church's good, commands by the Bishop of Winchester and Geoffrey the Chancellor, Galfridus Cancellarius, Henry's and the fair Rosamond's authentic son present there, commands that they, the said 13, do now withdraw and fix upon 3 from their monastery. The first thing that the king utters is, hey guys, welcome. I want to do right by you, by God, etc. Now, Give me three names. Literally the thing that Samson suggested, and that deed is already done, thanks to Samson. What a foresight! Because like, there's no. By the way, so far we know a couple of things. So we know that this decision is momentous, extremely important for the monastery, right? Like whoever is picked, that's going to be there for a generation. And like we also interestingly know that there's no process. They don't even know if they will get to pick one from their own convent. There's no rules. There are no rules. There's just a promise to do right, but nothing is written. Nothing is there. There are no procedures. This is insane. There are no procedures, and therefore also no procedures to be manipulated. It really is a promise to do their best, hand on the God, hand on Bible. I mean, we don't have anything really that we can analogize to this, but I kind of love it. You know, one of the sidebar, one of the things that I hope to bring to this channel are some readings from the Supreme Court oral arguments, which is something that I have been interested in for a very, very long time. Like 15 years ago, I used to, on my way to school or work, I used to listen to the Supreme Court oral arguments, and I have some favorites. But one of the things that I was talking with an American lawyer friend of mine at the time, I remember, was that I was so shocked. Okay, so through all these procedures and everything, you picked 9 Supreme Court justices, right? So I thought like the Supreme Court justices should say something like, you know, something almost equivalent to this, where they say, hand on the Bible, I believe in this case, the correct way is to rule in favor of the defendant for this and that reason, right? I thought that the arguments would be of this nature, but instead the US Supreme Court, I don't know if this is true for all Supreme Courts, I only know the US one, but they do this crazy kind of theory of mind argument where like Sonia Sotomayor in the year 2014 has to say, well, you know, if this was I don't even know, like an older justice, let's say some U.S. Supreme Court justice from the 1800s that set some kind of law. Well, if he was in my place, he would rule in favor of the defendant for these reasons, and that's why I'm ruling in favor of the defendant. Like I saw some shocking inability to take ownership for the momentous decisions that they're setting for the country, and I love that. Like that is such a clear contrast with this medieval times where they're not promising you some kind of procedure. But they have full ownership of the results. Like Abbot Hugo, good or ill, and he was very ill. He was very bad for the monastery, but the horrible state of the leadership, or the horrible state of the monastery under Abbot Hugo, is directly ascribable to Abbot Hugo and whoever appointed him. Like the buck stops with them. There's no process that they can kind of offload some of their responsibility to. And so we're going to see in the monastery, in this case as well, with this choice as well, the buck stops with King Henry II and these 13 monks. There's nobody else that will be responsible. And no procedure and no passive tone that will be taken. All right. So, the other thing that he's referencing is King Henry II is just before he asked them to narrow the pool of names to 3. Carlyle is observing, or Jocelyn's writing, that the people present are his Bishop of Winchester, who owns the house that they're in at the moment. It's the Winchester Mansion. And then there's a guy called Geoffrey the Chancellor, who is an illegitimate son of King Henry II, with this woman named Fair Rosamond. Maybe fair just means is a comment on her skin, so maybe her name is just Rosamond. I looked into it as well. I was kind of curious, but there are no pictures. There are no like depictions of Geoffrey the Chancellor that I could find relatively easily. So interesting. Interesting that like kind of everyone knows, but nobody mentions that there's this illegitimate son of the king who's also in the room. A work soon done. 3 hanging ready round Samson's neck in that leather pouch of his. So now it has to be revealed. Like the good news is that the king seems to be letting them pick their the next abbot from their own monastery. Bad news is now whoever is picked is going to be revealed. Breaking the seal, we find the names. What think ye of it? Ye higher dignitaries, thou indolent prior, thou Wilhelmus sacrista with the red bottle nose. The names in this order, in this order of Samson. So there's an order. The names in this order. By the way, when they are breaking the seals, I should mention because it's going to get clear, but they're kind of in a private room. So it's not, they're not breaking the seal in front of the king. They're just like retreating to a room. And now they're just among each other and they're breaking the seal. So the elders, the six of them that have decided on these names, all the senior people, many of whom have been appointed by Abbot Hugo and therefore are used to like the old and corrupt ways, the drunk Wilhelmus Sacrista, indolent prior, so the lazy prior, they're all in the room when the seal is broken, and the names we get in order from the top choice to the last choice are Samson subsacrista, Roger the distressed cellarer, Hugo Tertius prior. So the third prior. Those are the names. The higher dignitaries all omitted here. The prior omitted. The Wilhelmus sacrista omitted. The second prior, if he exists, omitted. Not even mentioned. Flush suddenly red in the face, but have nothing to say. One curious fact in question certainly is how Hugo Third Prior, who was of the electoral committee, came to nominate himself as one of the three. A curious fact which Hugo Third Prior has never yet entirely explained that I know of. So one of the six elders, I suppose there was like an untold agreement that the six elders would nominate three people that are not part of that party. Like, you know, but there's one exception, the third prior. I saw a cat running towards me, of course, it's Istanbul. Okay, the third prior has put himself on that name too, but frankly, to also still be fair, he put himself in the third position. The others have nothing to say. Oh my God, can you imagine how uncomfortable this moment is? I should also say, like, this chapter is going to be a chapter of braveries. And we are observing an important bravery right here. The bravery. Sorry. There's like people screaming in front of me if the mic is picking up. It's not, they're not in a bad way, not crazy people. They're just like doing one of those Turkish things where I think they're trying to do some favor for each other, but they're, you know, each side is trying to do the favor to another, and there's a screaming match, but I think it's subsided now. This is fun. I like this. I think I'm going to do these things outside from now. Well, to the extent that I can. Okay. Um, can you imagine? So I was saying this is a chapter of braveries, and we have observed a very important bravery now, which is that the elders, the six elders, have winnowed down three names, and among those three names, the lazy, the drunk, despite their seniority, are not present. The elders have done this knowing that very likely the seal was going to be broken, and they would have to look in the eyes of those senior servants, and they would have to stand by that decision. That discomfort was calculated, and they chose to do this for the monastery that they loved. They chose to bear this discomfort for the monastery that they love. It's just like not everyone can do this, not even elders. This is very, very brave, very courageous, very admirable of these elders to do this. Hats off. Knowing probably, by the way, they're elders, so that means at some point they might retire, at some point they might be dependent on the monastery for elder care. And if things happen such that the seal is broken, their names are revealed, but let's say the current prior or one of the Wilhelmus Sacrista comes to power somehow, that one of, they will remember that the elders never voted for them, and they might. I mean, these are like petty, small people as we see them, so they might actually uh, like make their lives hell in their last years. Despite knowing these risks, they chose to do the right thing. Admirable, admirable. Hats off to the six elders. However, we return and report to the king our three names, merely altering the order. Sorry. Putting Samson last, lowest of all. So something still happens there. I like it's good that the names remained the same, but Samson was their first choice, and now Samson has been sort of made in the discomfort of the moment, demoted to the last choice. Samson last, lowest of all. The king, at recitation of our three, asks us, "Who are they? Were they born in my domain? Totally unknown to me. You must nominate three others." Whereupon Wilhelmus Sacrista says, "Our prior must be named, being already our head." And the prior responds, "Wilhelmus Sacrista is a fit man for all his red nose." That's not obviously not what he's saying. The Wilhelmus Sacrista is a fit man. That's where the quote ends. "Tickle me, Toby, and I'll tickle thee." I mean, I laughed out loud when I heard this. This is literally like scratch my back and I'll scratch yours, either in Carlyle's time or even in Jocelyn's time. I mean, ever present human dynamic. Do you see how they jumped on it? The prior, the sacrista instantly nominated each other, nakedly, openly, knowing that they don't have the vote of confidence from the elders. They still voted themselves in, muscled in. Venerable Dennis, too, is named. I don't think his name is Venerable Dennis. I think we're getting slight partisanship from Jocelyn, who's like careful in the way he writes about the monks. But you can tell, like, certain people he just refers by their official title. So he never disrespects them, but he sometimes omits to give praise. And that's kind of how you know that um, that Jocelyn is partial to certain people, one of whom is Dennis. So he's constantly referred to as Venerable Dennis. He too is named. None in his conscience can say nay. "There are now 6 on our list." "Well," said the king, "they have done it swiftly, they." So they're moving, the process is moving along fast. Because obviously, I mean, the king wanted 3 more names, and Wilhelmus and Prior jumped on it. And the others kind of couldn't say anything at that point. So instantly they got their 3 other names. The monks withdraw again, and Majesty revolves for a little with his pares. Pares means peers, and episcopi, so his bishops, lords and law wards, so his legal advisors, and sole overseers. I think this is just his clergy. The thoughts of the royal breast. So all these people, as well as his own conscience, the king and his retinue, reflect on these 6 names. The monks wait silent in an outer room. So I think we'll call it here, and I'll keep moving. Um, uh, I'll I'll continue reading in another setting. Bye. Hi everyone. So today we are continuing the rest of the chapter. It is a different night, different location, but actually same bookstore, like same different branch of the same bookstore. So if you can see, like this building of all 4 floors with the white stripes is owned by the Penguin bookstore with its logo a little bit obscured by the trees, but right here there's a penguin, and there's like a cafe, another cafe at the bottom floor next to a very busy street. but I've listened to the playback yesterday and the audio was surprisingly good. So as I talked directly into the mic, like even the screaming match between those two men in front of me was barely audible. So I think this is going to be a good, I'm hoping this is going to be a good reading, as well as just a good template for future. I'm enjoying these like outdoors book readings. Okay. So last we checked in, there were the king. They presented 3 names to the king, surprising, because the Samson was at their top spot. And the king asked for 3 more names because he didn't recognize anyone on the list. And the list itself was very unusual. Sorry, I'm just noticing I have AirPods on. I'm just going to take them off. One sec. Yeah, the king asked for 3 more names because the list itself was unusual in that the prior and the sort of more senior monastery officers were not listed. So they presented 3 more names because the prior and Wilhelm Subsacrista, no, not Subsacrista, actually the sacristan himself, they scratched each other's backs and they muscled themselves, their names onto the list. So now there's 6 names, the king is deliberating, and the monks are waiting. Now we're reading on. In short while they're next ordered to add yet another 3, but not from their own convent, from other convents, for the honor of my kingdom. So the king is that now he's cooking. He's asking for 3 more names, but now from other abbeys, other churches in his kingdom. Here, what is to be done here? We will demur if need be, because remember there was a pact among the 12 monks to demur, to like raise the issue even to the Pope if they get an abbot that's from outside their own monastery. We will demur if need be. We do name 3, however, for the nonce. For the nonce means for the moment, or like at this moment to play along. The prior of Saint Faith's, a good monk of Saint Neots, good monk of Saint Albans. Right. So 1 prior from another church and 2 monks of other churches. Good men all made abbots and dignitaries since at this hour. So since clearly like Jocelyn is recounting and doing the writing at a much later date because he's not one of the parties that went to Waltham. At the time that this whole election is over, all those 3 monks have been assigned to either positions of abbot or other dignitary positions. So these are all good men that have received their sort of higher titles ever since. But as we know, as from a historical perspective, that they never became the abbots of St. Edmundsbury. Indeed, Abbot Samson did. It is interesting to note that the community of monks is so well connected that on the spot they were able to name 3 other monks that they would trust with becoming an abbot. They were going to demur, but like at least gun to their heads, they could actually name 3 monks, which is an interesting testament to their. It must be a testament to their intermonastical dialogue. There must be many events, many festivals, etc., where they collaborate. So they were able to see like the good character of these monks and testify to that. I found that very interesting. Like it's. I think it would be difficult actually if you were to be in any organization to name 3 leaders from other organizations that you would trust with leadership over you. Like these are some well-connected people, monks and monasteries. There are now 9 upon our list. So 3 outsiders plus the extended 6 from inside the monastery. There are now 9 on the list. What the thoughts of the Dominus Rex may be farther. Again, no process, so nobody knows how this is going to go. And by the way, there's no process. Like this happens once every 30 years, every 25 years. I mean, what process could you even have that can last that long, right? So it is fair that this is kind of made up on the spot a little bit. What the thoughts of the Dominus Rex may be farther. the Dominus Rex, thanking graciously, sends out word that we shall now strike off 3. The 3 strangers are instantly struck off. So the king, for having forced them to make the list a little bit longer, I think this is a very interesting process, actually. It is. The king is getting some excellent signals, like excellent signals out of this process, frankly. So if you consider it from the king's point of view and the point of view of his advisors, this is some excellent intel. But the 3 that they strike are those that they, those outside of their convent. So, so those are struck. The 3 strangers are instantly struck off. Wilhelmus Sacrista adds that he will of his own accord decline. A touch of grace and respect for the Sacrosancta, even in Wilhelmus. So Wilhelmus, the guy who himself, well, technically the prior forced him on the list, hoping that he would reciprocate, and he did. But now Wilhelmus Sacrista recuses himself. And Jocelyn comments like he has some respect, some modicum of self-awareness and a little bit of shame, a little bit of guilt by looking on the Bible. So fantastic. The drunk guy will not be the next abbot for sure. Then yet one more. Hugo, 3rd prior, goes, and Roger Salarius. The king then orders us to strike off a couple more. Then yet one more. Hugo, the 3rd prior, goes, and Roger Salarius, venerable monk Dennis. So one by one, the process now is not clear. Like, did they follow the lead of Wilhelm? Did they recuse themselves, or were they struck off, invited to strike themselves off? Who knows? But Jocelyn insists, by the way, on the venerable monk Dennis. So I think there might be some strategic recusals going on. Like Dennis might have recused himself to make sure his votes go to Samson, because anyone that would vote for venerable Dennis probably would not vote for an indolent prior. But now there remain on our list 2 only: Samson Sap Sacrista and the prior. The prior must be fuming. The prior must be fuming. It's like this low officer compared to you and you. Which of these 2? It were hard to say, by monks who may get themselves foot-gyved and thrown in limbo for speaking. See, like, this is a real threat looming over their head. If the person, well, Samson wouldn't probably do this to his opponent, so who are we kidding? They're all thinking, if I vote for Samson, but it's the prior that ends up getting into office, I might be shankled by the ankles and go to prison, thrown into limbo for speaking, and God knows for how long, right? You might be in prison for a year for doing this. There's literally, like I said before, this election is a process, frankly, an account of bravery. The first bravery that we saw was the bravery of the elders, who among themselves put among the 3 names that they submitted only the deserving 3, and not the most senior 3. So the prior was not even in the initial list of 3. The king forced that. So another story of bravery is now how these negotiations are being handled. People are afraid to speak out. People are really afraid of the prior, because there's a real chance, having been the prior of Abbot Hugo, he's going to be just as a petty tyrant as Abbot Hugo, and in their elder years. This is tough. This is tough. Hats off to all these monks that are now trying to deliberate. We humbly request that the Bishop of Winchester and Geoffrey the Chancellor may again enter and help us decide. Like, you can tell they want to say, but they can't say, and now they're hoping the king's advisors will know what to do next. Will steer the discussion towards Samson. Which do you want? Asks the bishop. Venerable Dennis made a speech commending the persons of the prior and Samson, but always in the corner of his discourse, in angulo si sermones, brought Samson in. So to be a fly on the wall, like you can tell that they have to speak strategically, almost by omission. Like they praise both, but you have to listen to who they praise the most. So, I see, said the bishop, we are to understand that your prior is somewhat remiss, that you want to have him, to have him, you call for Samson for abbot. That you want to not. Let me read the sentence again. We are to understand that your prior is somewhat remiss. So I think at this point, I mean, the monks must be deliberating, the 11, among themselves. I don't think that Geoffrey the Chancellor would say your prior when the prior is right there next to him. So this must be the 11 deliberating among themselves. But of course, the abbot's people are there too. So anything they say, that it will immediately go to the ears of Abbot Samson or of Brother Samson or the prior. So the bishop says, okay. Now it's obviously clear. I mean, these are smart men. These are the king's advisors, right? So they know if it's such a close call between like the prior and a sub-sacristan, a lower officer, they know that there's something wrong with this. Like the prior is clearly not a good leader. So he's saying, we are to understand that your prior is somewhat remiss, that you want to have him, you call Samson for abbot. So the bishop is trying to coax out a firm stance. Either of them is good, said Venerable Dennis, almost trembling. That's how afraid he is. That's how afraid everyone is. But we would have the better if it please God. I mean, they're really trying their best. My heart goes out to the Venerable Dennis and all the others. They are so afraid of the prior. They're trying to get the king's advisors to make the right choice for them. But the king's advisors, also cunning, he doesn't want to make enemies. Like he doesn't want to own that choice, right? So he's trying to coax out a firm stance between the two. Which of the two do you want? Inquires the bishop pointedly. Samson, answered Dennis. Hats off to Dennis. Hats off to Dennis. A real, honest to God moment of bravery. Abdicating himself or recusing himself from the list, a first moment of bravery and strategy, good strategy. Next moment of bravery, calling in the bishop and consistently, gently guiding him towards Samson. And the final and the capstone moment of bravery, when directly called upon in front of traitors, various traitorous monks, knowing full well that he would be an shackled by the ankles for indefinite amounts of time, maybe years, in his elderly years, doing the right thing and saying, Samson. This is a story of bravery. He calls for Samson. Samson, answered Dennis. Samson, how do you not get emotional? How am I getting emotional over an election of monks in the 12th century? But this is an emotional moment. Look, Samson echoed all of the rest that durst speak or echo anything, and Samson is reported to the king accordingly. His Majesty, advising of it for a moment, orders that Samson be brought in with the other 12. Insane. The part where Samson echoed all the rest that durst speak or echo anything. See, this is like the domino effect. I mean, the domino effect is another perennial part of human nature. I think we call it preference cascade. In the sense that, like, everybody is afraid, but when the first person speaks and is willing to take the blows, as Dennis has been, others speak as well. It's just like the group dynamics. Of the group dynamics when, like, the prisoner's dilemma, basically, when individually you're going to attract far more retaliation than silence. That's always a... Whoa. Sorry, the mic is probably not picking it up, but there is a large motorcycle engines in front of me. But this is perennially interesting. So finally, I mean, they made it. They made it. They said, we want Samson. It's still up in the air what the king is going to do, but the monks have declared their preference for Samson, knowing that if the prior gets in, they will all be extremely horribly punished, especially Dennis. The king's majesty, looking at us somewhat sternly, then says, "You present to me Samson. I do not know him. Had it been your prior, whom I do know, I would have accepted him. However, I will now do as you wish." Another moment of bravery from the king. He respects their decision. It's not customary. It might create ripple effects to the other abbeys. Certainly, I mean, it's going to spark some gossip. And the king respects their wish. Another moment of bravery. He doesn't cut a cheap deal with the other prior that he knows, he's familiar with. It takes courage from the king as well not to do that, not to meddle. "However, I will now do as you wish, but have a care of yourselves. By the true eyes of God, per veros oculos Dei, if you manage badly, I will be upon you." Samson, therefore, steps forward, kisses the king's feet, but swiftly rises erect again. Swiftly. By the way, we get no account of Samson throughout all this. Like, his name has been put into the list of the three. The list is expanding once, expanding again, being struck off. We don't get the sense that Samson is speaking at all. He may even be outside of the room of the deliberations for all we know. Like, it's just with Samson, it's just one way. Like, until he has the power to do anything, and he knows he doesn't, it's all one way, the information flow, but he registers everything. He just does not say anything. This is a very interesting pattern of behavior. And now he made it. Now he made it. From a dream, as a 9-year-old, being rescued by Saint Edmund's himself from the devil, to, at the age of 47, becoming the next abbot. Samson therefore steps forward, kisses the king's feet, but swiftly rises erect again, swiftly turns towards the altar, uplifting with the other 12 in clear tenor note the 51st Psalm, Miserere mei Deus. "After thy loving kindness, Lord, have mercy upon me." With firm voice, firm step and head, no change in his countenance whatever. "By God's eyes," said the king, "that one I think will govern the abbey well." From the first moment, literally from the first, not even 5 minutes, he knows how to make an impression. I mean, this is just, I'm getting emotional. Like, I'm getting emotional when like, somebody is destined for something great and they fulfill that destiny. This is so wonderful to read. And so crazy that I'm getting so emotional over it. "By the same oath, charged to your majesty's account, I too am precisely of that opinion. It is some while since I fell with a likelier man anywhere than this new Abbot Samson." So this is Jocelyn's opinion. Jocelyn's opinion saying, I never seen someone who's more likely to succeed than Abbot Samson. "Long life to him, and may the Lord have mercy on him as abbot." Thus then, have the St. Edmundsbury monks, without express ballot box or other good winnowing machine, contrived to accomplish the most important feat a body of men can do, to winnow out the man that is to govern them. Carlyle thinks the most important thing a body of men can do, social feats, a body of men can do, is to pick their leader. And they have done so. And truly, one sees not that by any winnowing machine whatever, they could have done it any better. O ye kind heavens, there is in every nation and community a fittest, a wisest, bravest, best, whom could we find and make king over us, all were in truth very well. The best that God and nature had permitted us to make it. By what art discover him? Will the heavens and their pity teach us no art? For our need for him is great. So Carlyle is saying, in every society, every polity, every group, there's one guy who's really the best one to lead them. And these men have managed to pick that one. And Carlyle is like reaching for he clearly has a very low opinion of the 19th century leaders. So he's like, we need a better winnowing machine. He's imploring the heavens, imploring God to share a better winnowing machine for them. Ballot boxes, reform bills, and winnowing machines, all these are good, or are not so good. Alas, brethren, how can these, I say, be other than inadequate, be other than failures, melancholy to behold? Dim all souls of men to the divine, the high and awful meaning of human worth and truth, we shall never, by all the machinery in Birmingham, discover the true and worthy. It is written, if we are ourselves valets, there shall exist no hero for us. We shall not know the hero when we see him. We shall take the quack for a hero and cry audibly through all ballot boxes and machinery whatsoever. Thou art he, be thou king over us. So Carlyle is going back to the thesis that we've encountered during this book many times, which is that like the people, like the king. So if the people are not attuned to the divine, if they don't have a relationship with God, and the good and the true and the beautiful, if the people are not in that kind of mindset themselves, they don't have this divine connection themselves, there's no mechanistic process that can get them wise leaders. They will not even recognize the hero when they see him. This reminds me back to the Bobus Higgins sausage maker on the great scale, how Carlyle said, it's not even about corruption. Like if you take a man like this, an industrialist, by the way, like a titan of industry that we would think those are the best of us in our society, for sure, in this modern age. But in Carlyle's age, Carlyle doesn't have a high opinion of them. And he says, yeah, it's not even a matter of corruption. He would just elect a more pure version of himself, of an industrialist. So you do, in Carlyle's opinion, need to have this divine connection to even see the heroes. What boots it? Seek only deceitful speciosity, money with gilt carriages, fame with newspaper paragraphs. Whatever name it bear, you will find only deceitful speciosity. Godlike reality will be forever far from you. So, if you seek the fake, and if you're deceived by your mentality that it's only the fake stuff that you chase, only fake leaders you will find. The quack shall be legitimate, inevitable king of you. No earthly machinery able to exclude the quack. Ye shall be born thralls of the quack and suffer under him till your hearts are near broken, and no French Revolution or Manchester insurrection or partial or universal volcanic combustions and explosions, never so many, can do more than change the figure of your quack, the essence of him remaining for a time and times. So the most people without the connection to the divine, a connection to wisdom, the most they'll be able to select is a quack, is a fake leader. And the most that they will be able to accomplish through politics is to change the face of that fake leader. How long, O prophet, say some, with a rather melancholy sneer. Alas, ye unprophetic, ever till this come about, till deep misery, if nothing softer will, have driven you out of your speciosities into your sincerities, and you will find that there either is a godlike in the world, or else ye are all unintelligible madness. That there is a God as well as mammon and a devil, and a genius of luxuries and canting dilettantisms and vain shows. How long will that be? Compute for yourselves, my unhappy brothers. So, Carlyle is saying there are people asking for a prophet, asking for a rescue, and asking how long it will take until real good leadership comes to England. And Carlyle says it can only happen through enormous misery, till deep misery, if nothing softer will. So, if the ship will not turn around, in a gentle way, it will crash into this misery and finally be jolted out of insincere, out of fakenesses that are surrounding the people into their sincerities. It's so interesting how refreshing this all is. Like, there were no iPhones, there were no even telephones, or barely starting to be any telephones in Carlyle's time. There was no mass media, no holograms, no YouTube, no social media. It's amazing how fresh Carlyle's prose seems in terms of people being surrounded by fakenesses of their time. In the year 1850, this is just very surprising. And he's saying, like, something is going to jolt you into sincerity again, and when you are in your sincere moments, you will recognize one of two things: that either there is a God, like you will actually discover the wisdom again, or you will be a nihilist, basically, somebody who thinks that it's total chaos and madness. And either one of the two will cause the next steps. And if you recognize there's God, obviously, then you can have a prophet, a wise king, something worthy of being followed. And not a moment before then. Thank you for joining me for this reading of Thomas Carlyle's Past and Present, Book 2, The Ancient Monk, Chapter 8, The Election. Bye.